Happy Trauma Talk Tuesday, you guys. I'm coming back with another Trauma Talk Tuesday to help you to identify your trauma. So I was going to say toxic trauma, but you know what I'm saying? Toxic trauma. So you will not have to, and I will give you the language to do so. For those that do not know me, I help moms to heal from their past trauma so they can tap into their power, their purpose, and their full potential. And today, I just want to talk to you guys today about this whole month of October. If you do not know, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And if those that do not know me, I was in a domestic violence situation for the past 13 years that caused a lot of turmoil. And that relationship was not even like any type of normal abuse, right? That was narcissistic abuse, right? And when you in that type of situation, that relationship not only destroy you as a person, but it changes the psychology, the psychology of your brain. It changes the neuroscience of your brain. It changes the neurotransmitters. It changes the I don't want to say geographic, but it changes the psychology of your brain, the neuropsychology, the pathways inside your brain. It changes it, right? And it changes this to make you operate in a different system that God never called you to operate in. It calls you to operate in low self-esteem, lack of confidence. Any person, I said this in my last blog, any person to try to make you believe that you're anything outside of the will of God, then that person have bewitched you. And when you are in that type of relationship with a narcissist type of person, what they try to do is they try to get inside your mind to mentally control you, to control your emotions, to control your whereabouts, to control the way you think and you perceive and the way you believe about yourself. Before I got inside that relationship that I was in for 13 years, I was very confident in myself. I was very confident in my abilities. I was very confident I was going to be a top dog in this world. But due to the fact that I did not have my foundation of my confidence was not solidified in God, due to the fact that the foundations of how I felt about myself was not confident, was not built on a solid foundation, I was easily influenced by the way that he the things that he said to me because I wanted his approval so bad. I wanted that man to love me with everything inside of me, that I was willing to change everything about me just for him to see the greatness inside of me, right? So for many years, I was operating in a position that God never called me to operate in, which is why today I want to talk about breaking demonic systems that the enemy was set up in your life before you was born. Okay, I want you to look at it from this perspective. It was not a coincidence that I was in a toxic relationship. It was not a coincidence that I was in a relationship with my mom, with my daddy, and my uncle mixed in one person. It was not a coincidence that I lost my baby at 14 years old, that my mother lost her first child, that my grandmother was barren. That was not a coincidence. That was a demonic cycle that was actually um that was a demonic cycle. My niece had texted. I'm like, who texted me? That was a demonic cycle sent by the enemy to try to get me to have the same pain, to share the same trauma as my bloodline, because he knew. And I'm trying not to get ahead of myself because y'all, this is so good when Holy Spirit revealed it to me. He knew that okay, I'm gonna put it from this perspective, right? At the age of 14, I lost my baby at an early age, right? But I'm gonna just go back a couple of years before. My mother lost her first child. My mother lost her child at 18 years old. Wherever you see a cycle in your bloodline, that is indication that it is a curse at work. I'm gonna say it again. Wherever you see a cycle in your bloodline, that is indication that it is a curse at work inside your life. And in order for you to destroy that curse, you have to go the complete opposite or change your way of thinking so you will not repeat the same cycles that bloodline created, right? Or that bloodline, that curse, or that door that bloodline opened. It was a reason, and that it was a curse attached to the firstborn boy inside my bloodline died. It's a reason for that. It was a reason behind that. And it was because of sin. Due to their disobedience to God, they opened the door to a demonic portal and allowed this curse to be at work in the bloodline. Now it caused myself to have a womb of me losing a baby. My mother had a womb of losing a baby, right? And so the same trauma that she had is now my trauma, on top of the trauma that I had, that I needed to heal from, right? That I needed to process. But I was not only processing my trauma and my pain, but I was feeling the trauma and the pain of my forefathers because of the door and the iniquity that they opened up that I now had to deal with, right? Let me break this down into terms for you to understand, right? A lot of times, not a lot of times, it is what it is. We inherit curses, right? We inherit I'm talking about this later on in the life. We inherit demonic systems, demonic belief systems. What the reason why I say demonic, because God never called us to think like that. God never called us to attract those type of relationships. God never called us to, you know what I'm saying, to operate in low self-esteem. God actually thinks highly of us, right? However, when we dealt with that type of pain, and when that type of curse is at work, it alters your chemistry inside your brain to make you think a different way than God called you to think. I'm gonna give you an example. So trauma is passed through the umbilical cord. I talked about that one day on the Mindset Monday. If you didn't, go back and listen to it. But if you are someone and you deal with a lot of back pain, that is trapped trauma, generational trauma that actually needs to be released through stretching, not yoga, through stretching and through exercising. It actually releases the trapped trauma, right? But also trauma is passed down through the utero, which means as your brain is forming in your mother's womb, right? Your brain is forming according to, right, God's design. However, it was a the mindsets that was formed before you caused your brain to be, the chemistry of your brain to be developed how theirs was developed. I hope this makes sense to you, right? So imagine, you know what I'm saying, you come inside this world with curses, and you now developing belief system due to learned behavior. My son for try to come in, due to learned behavior, right? So you thinking like, okay, why do I think like this? This is normal. When actuality, that was a demonic system that was put in place for you to think the way that you thought. Why? Because somewhere in the bloodline, somebody dealt with the same trauma and the same pain. Now you end up having the same trauma and the same pain, and then before you know it, you start believing and thinking like that last generation thought. I'm gonna give you another example. Say, for instance, everybody in the bloodline was molested, right? They shared the same pain. But now everybody become alcoholics because they shared the same pain. And the only way that they knew how to cope with it, to cope with the pain, was through drinking, was through drugs. So now they have the same addiction. They have the same behavior. But what's going to change that behavior? What's going to change that addiction? By dealing with by dealing with the trauma that they suppressed it, and they're learning how to cope with through alcoholism, through drugs, through fornication, through sin. What opened the door to a curse? Sin, right? So I want you to understand that relationship, that toxic friendship, that toxic parent, that person was not put in your life by a coincidence. That, huh? Your what? Okay, I'll bring it in. No, I'll bring it in. No, that person was demonically put inside your life to try to get you to repeat the same cycle as your forefathers. The enemy knew how much pain you was gonna have to endure in order for you to stop going hard in the realm of the spirit to break that curse. The enemy knew how much pain you needed in order to endure, so you can not so you can give up. The enemy knew how much pain that you needed for you to not go to develop the scarcity mindset. The enemy knew how much pain you needed to endure so he can keep that same system that he had your mama in, your grandma in, your great grandma in, so you would never go further. I'm gonna tell you about another system. Demani, if I say wait, that's exactly what I mean. Close the door. Another system, close the door. You probably took two, and don't slam it. I tell you about another system, right? Everybody in the bloodline, you know what I'm saying, on Section 8 and food stamps. Nothing. I have nothing against Section 8 and food stamps. Nothing against it, right? Was on it many years myself. Have nothing against it. However, it's the reason why everybody inside that bloodline is on food stamps and on Section 8. That is a mindset, y'all. That is a mindset, and that was a system, a belief system that was created, right? I'm gonna break it down this way. Say, for instance, right, the mother or the grandmother was on Section 8 and food stamps. How they're going to teach their grandchild or their great grandchild to go buy a house? when they're financially illiterate themselves. That was a system that was put in place to try to keep poverty to go through the generation. That was a system of a scarcity mindset that was put in place so that person can never tap into the abundant mindset that God has for them. I'm gonna show you another curse. God, when Adam and Eve had sin, right? It was a curse put on all men. They had to toil, right? They had to basically work on their bellies, right? That means toil. Toil. That means labor. God never called us to labor. God never called us to toil. That was a part of the curse. So when you see a curse at work, that bloodline toils, or that bloodline, they work extra hard for whatever they need. Why? Because their mindset was put in place before you was even born. So now you think that you're a hard worker, when actuality you're not understanding that you have now been cursed with a mindset that you feel that you have to work and toil you for everything. I'm not telling you that hard work is not good, because God wants us to be hard workers, but God never called us to toil you for the things and the blessings that He had for us. Those things supposed to come inside of our life with ease. It's supposed to come to you with ease. So you, if you are toiling, and I'm in a season of my life, right? It's so important for you to identify what season you in. And I believe I am in a season of life in my life that God is calling me to a place of rest. Why? Because for many years I lived under the curse, right? And because I lived under the curse, I toiled a lot, which made me very, very weary and tired all the time. Why? Because I was toiling, I was working extra hard. I felt like I had to work hard for everything that I had. Now, I want you to understand it's a difference, but we're working hard and working as a slave. And too many of our people have that slave mentality due to the curse. So let's break down these mindsets, shall we? Of systems. And tomorrow on my blog, I'm going to go deeper in these systems, deeper in these belief systems, deeper in these mindsets. You got the victim mindset. What makes you operate in a place of powerlessness? God did not call us to be pitiful. He called us to be powerful. But the reason why, I'm giving an example. When Gideon was going out, right? When Gideon was going out to fight the war with he was very timid, right? But God called him a mighty man of valor. But Gideon had the mentality that he was powerlessness. He was powerless. Where did this mindset come from? That was a mindset of the curse of sin that his forefathers opened, and it made him operate in a place of intimidation when God called us to be powerful, right? Anxiousness, uh, anxious mindset. An anxious mindset is connected to a fearful heart. Hopelessness, depression, the spirit of despair, right? Depressed. What everybody in the bloodline deal with mental illness. That is a curse. God did not call us to deal with mental illness. God gave us a mental health. Now, am I negating the fact that mental illness is real? I'm not negating that. I'm not saying that mental illness is not real. If you're on medication, I am not saying that you may not need it. I'm not saying it. And everything is not a curse. A lot of it, well, I'm not gonna say every let me back what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a lot of us have suffer from mental illness or emotional um agony is because we did not have the proper tools to take care of our mental health and to take care of our emotional state. But a lot of us suffer from mental illness due to curse. Okay. Another one, the scarcity mindset, right? You want to write everybody in your family in poverty. That is a scarcity mindset. That was a system that put in place to make you believe that you only see that you only have lack, right? That you only deal with lack. So that bloodline, they dealt with a lot of struggle. So it made them develop a scarcity mindset and made them have to hoard things because they felt they was not going to have enough to be able to get by, right? God did not call us to operate in this. So with this type of mindset. So is that relationship, did you just attract that relationship, or was that relationship set up by the enemy? It's no coincidence that everybody in your family died at 65 from cancer. That is not a coincidence. That is a curse at work that needs to be broken in the realm of the spirit before it manifests and hit your life. It's not a coincidence that everybody in your family was molested. It's only a matter of time that your children will be molested unless you kill that thing in the realm of the spirit. It is not a coincidence that everybody in your family is in poverty. That is a mindset and a curse that is at work. It is not a coincidence that you keep on attracting these narcissistic abusive relationships. The enemy, he groomed your appetite up a long time ago and got you ready for that relationship. So now you crave that person because his appetite is familiar. What he do to you is familiar. The way he loves you is familiar. It's from a familiar spirit. That familiar spirit was passed down in the bloodline, y'all. So that toxic relationship or their abusive relationship, it's not a coincidence. It was demonically and it was divinely put in your life to try to get you off course of the place or the destination that God had for you to go. Because the enemy understood if you get to that destination, if you get to that promised land, that he cannot have your children, he cannot have your grandchildren, he cannot have your great grandchildren. This weekend, I was crying out to God. I was telling God, like, God, I'm just tired. And he showed me, and that's when he started talking to me about systems, right? And he started showing me how this is not a coincidence that you're tired and you want to give up. This was put in place. The enemy knew how much you needed to be frustrated. He knew how much you needed to get you off course. He knew how much frustration you needed to be delayed. He knew exactly what you needed because he understood that if you're frustrated and you're tired and you're in a place that will delay you, and that delay will frustrate you, and that frustration will turn to you forfeiting the promise that God have called you to fulfill. That's why this girl named Tiffany Montgomery, she did a video talking about don't allow the process to punk you out of your promise. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes the process makes you like, man, I ain't gonna say that out loud because your words is powerful. But the process of how you looking like, man, I'm fighting I'm fighting, right? But I have the revelation even the days I'm tired, and even now I understand that I'm not fighting for me. I'm fighting for the generation that's connected to my voice, but I'm also fighting for my kids. I'm also fighting for my grandkids. I'm also fighting for my grandkids that as I defeat these giants, they won't have to face it. So me leaving that relationship was not just me leaving a relationship, baby. I broke a curse. It was a curse connected to that. But now in my season of being sanctified, in my season of being processed, right, to be Christ like, God gotta heal those wounds. Because if He don't heal those wounds, guess what? I'm gonna attract another one of those with a different face. Why? Because it's familiar. And the reason why people stay in the familiar is because the unfamiliar is uncomfortable and it's not familiar. Why? Because the enemy groomed your appetite real early. So that's what I got for y'all on this Trauma Talk Tuesday. Identify the system that is at work in your life in toxic relationships to kill those demonic cycles so you can walk in your purpose, your power, and your full potential and be all that God have called you to be. If you need help, you hit the link inside the video and we can schedule your one-on-one call today. And we can hop on the call to help you to identify those systems that's in place that's trying to hinder you, delay you, and frustrate you from reaching your destination. See you.